Dock 47 had always been a quiet place, too quiet, some would say. Floating on the edge of human space near a lifeless moon, it served as a small orbital repair station meant for passing cargo ships, forgotten mining rigs, and the occasional scout vessel limping home from deep patrol. The station's corridors were dull and dimly lit, its systems outdated, and its maintenance bots clunky but loyal. Staffed by a skeleton crew of just 7 humans, Dock 47 was the sort of place that didn't make it into official reports unless something broke or someone complained, and even then, the response took weeks. Lieutenant Mara Voss had been in charge for almost 3 years now, and she knew every creaking pipe and flickering console aboard her station. She didn't expect surprises, she didn't expect excitement. But that changed on a quiet rotation cycle when her console began flashing with multiple long-range pings. At first, she thought it was a glitch, maybe a sense of echo or static from the moon's magnetic field. But the readings were too steady, too real. One ship appeared, then 3 more, then 20, and by the time she called for backup from the control room, the numbers had risen to over 100. Mara blinked in disbelief as alien vessels of every size and shape came into view, some sleek and silver, others bulky and covered in strange symbols. They weren't broadcasting distress signals, nor were they attempting communication. They simply hovered in a silent line, engines idling, forming an organized queue that reached far into the void. No weapons were powered, no shields raised. They weren't here for war, but they were here for something. The station wasn't equipped for this kind of traffic. The docking ports were meant to handle no more than 2 ships at once, maybe 3 in an emergency. And yet, the alien crafts waited patiently as if they knew exactly what they were doing, as if someone, or something, had sent them here on purpose. Mara scrambled through comms, trying to hail the nearest ship, but there was no response, just quiet, controlled silence. She checked station logs, reviewed any recent broadcasts, and even called Central Command, only to receive automated replies telling her to hold tight. Her team was just as confused. Chief Technician Hal stared at the incoming wave of ships and muttered that this had to be some sort of cosmic joke. But deep down, Mara felt something else, a chill, a kind of thrill she hadn't felt in years. Something was happening, and Dock 47 was at the heart of it. When a Varnathi trade vessel finally sent a short message, just 5 simple words, it only deepened the mystery. Requesting human repair services. Urgent. The message was repeated again and again by different ships in different languages, all asking for the same thing. Not materials, not fuel, just repairs. Human repairs. The line of ships didn't break formation, didn't cause trouble. They just waited. Mara couldn't understand why. There were far bigger, better-equipped repair stations across the galaxy, staffed by advanced machines and elite alien engineers. Why come all the way out here? Why Dock 47? Her mind raced with questions. Was this a misunderstanding? A coordinated test? Or was there something about humans, something not even they understood, that had drawn these ships to them? She felt the weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders. This wasn't just a traffic jam. It was something larger, something stranger. She looked out the main viewport, past the blinking lights and control panels, and saw the distant line of ships blinking like stars in the dark. Whatever was happening, it had already begun, and Dock 47, the station everyone forgot, was now the center of attention in a galaxy full of eyes. The strange traffic outside Dock 47 didn't go unnoticed for long. Within hours, whispers began spreading across human communication channels and independent alien trade routes. Freight captains spoke in hushed tones, spaceport managers forwarded blurry footage, and even underground info brokers picked up the buzz. Something was happening at the edge of human space, and it centered around an old, run-down repair station that was never meant to hold the spotlight. As more ships continued to join the line outside Dock 47, Earth's communication centers lit up with questions. Some believed the station had discovered a new energy source. Others feared an alien invasion cleverly disguised as a peaceful arrival. Official responses from the United Earth Fleet were slow and vague, only adding to the confusion. Meanwhile, inside Dock 47, Lieutenant Mara Voss felt the pressure building. The docking queues were being monitored, supplies were thinning, and tension crackled in every corridor. She needed answers, and fast. One of the docked alien ships, a sleek, organic-looking craft belonging to the Soltran species, had been silent like the others, until Mara herself stepped aboard, accompanied by nothing but a universal translator and a calm, respectful tone. The Soltran pilot was tall, with glistening scales and a quiet, observant gaze. After several minutes of careful conversation, the pilot finally spoke, his voice soft but steady, the translator humming with activity. He said only one thing: "We heard humans fix ships, like no other species can." The words sent a ripple through Mara's mind. She repeated them slowly, letting the meaning sink in. It wasn't about location. It wasn't about availability. The aliens weren't just here for repairs. They were here because they believed in something. After that conversation, Mara began digging. She combed through civilian message boards, unregulated alien chatter, and open comm frequencies. Hidden in the sea of static was a pattern, a story that had traveled far and wide, a tale of a human engineer named Carter Ray, who, during a deep space emergency, had repaired a failing alien fusion reactor using a piece of chewing gum, 2 strips of duct tape, and a part from an old coffee machine. The reactor wasn't just fixed, it ran 20% more efficiently afterward. What started as a simple survival story had grown into something bigger. The tale spread from one alien crew to another, passed on in fragments and exaggerated with each retelling. Some said Carter had rebuilt the ship's air using only his hands. Others believed he'd talked the ship into working again. The truth didn't matter anymore. The idea had taken root. Humans, unpredictable and messy as they were, had a gift no other species did. They didn't rely solely on protocols or schematics. They thought outside the rules. They bent physics when they had to, and they got the job done. Mara could hardly believe it, but the evidence was all around her. These ships weren't damaged beyond help. Some of them had small problems: a flickering light, a navigation delay, a fuel imbalance. Problems their own systems could have solved, but instead they came here. They were choosing human hands, human intuition, human stubbornness. For the first time, Mara understood the real weight of the situation. Dock 47 had become something more than a station. It was now a symbol, not of power or size or status, but of trust in humanity's unique way of doing things. And out in the cold, silent vacuum of space, that trust was worth waiting in line for. As she stared at the long chain of vessels still hanging outside her window, Mara felt a mix of fear and pride. They came for help, but they also came with expectations. The galaxy was watching, and now it was up to her crew to prove the stories were true. With a line of alien ships stretching deeper into space and Dock 47's small crew already stretched thin, Lieutenant Mara Voss knew she had no choice but to call for backup. She didn't request formal officers or high-level specialists. Instead, she reached out to a group of engineers known more for results than reputation, more for brilliance than polish. Within 2 days, a transport shuttle docked with the station, and out walked 3 of the most unconventional minds in the human fleet. First came Zeke, known in hushed circles as the Reactor Whisperer. His coveralls were stained with years of chemical burns and oil smears, his thick beard hiding a permanent grin, and his tool belt looked like it belonged to someone who refused to believe in safety guidelines. Zeke didn't read manuals, he listened to machines. He once said, only half-joking, that he could tell what was wrong with a fusion core just by hearing it hum. Next came Jen, the AI therapist. Calm, sharp, and always carrying a datapad full of strange algorithms, she had a gift for calming row ship AAs and reprogramming stubborn interfaces with nothing but words and logic loops. To her, artificial intelligence wasn't just code, it was emotion, memory, personality. She didn't just fix broken systems, she helped them feel whole again. And last came Toma, young and wild-eyed, famous for rebuilding a damaged father-class warp drive using scrap metal, a toaster coil, and a clothes hanger. No one knew how it worked, but it did. Toma had the look of someone who saw the universe as one big puzzle waiting to be solved with whatever parts happened to be lying around. They didn't dress like professionals, they didn't speak in technical jargon, and they didn't follow the standard procedures that most alien engineers lived by. But when they arrived at Dock 47, something shifted. One by one, they went to work on the alien ships, no hesitation, no ceremony. Zeke crawled into the engine compartments of vessels no human had ever seen before and came out hours later with systems running better than new. Jen sat calmly across from an agitated Gorlani warship AA, speaking softly as though soothing a nervous child, and within minutes the system rebooted and requested a name of its own. Toma opened panels that had been sealed for decades and rerouted energy using connectors from kitchen appliances and parts taken from forgotten maintenance bots. Aliens from all corners of the galaxy stood in silent awe, watching the human team work. Some of them had trained for years in elite technical academies, mastering systems designed to be flawless. Yet here were three humans, working by feel, by instinct, with hands covered in grease and heads full of ideas that shouldn't have worked, but did. Mara watched from the main control room as more ships joined the crew outside, their captains sending requests not just for repairs, but specifically for the human fixers. There was something almost magical in how they worked. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't guesswork. It was a deep, strange understanding of machines, a kind of intuition no manual could teach. Even systems that should have been impossible to repair were slowly brought back to life. The alien crews began taking notes, sketching diagrams, even filming the process to study later. But even with all that, they couldn't explain it. One Ralkeen technician muttered, "They fix things that shouldn't even be broken," and it became the unofficial slogan of the station. The legend of human ingenuity was no longer just a rumor. It was playing out in real time, in front of hundreds of witnesses. And Mara realized something deeper. This wasn't just about machines. It was about trust, about the idea that when all else failed, humans didn't give up, they got creative. And that was something the galaxy wasn't prepared for. Just when Dock 47 seemed to be finding its rhythm, with human engineers repairing alien ships faster than ever and earning the quiet respect of dozens of species, something strange and dangerous began to unfold. It started subtly, small malfunctions in ships still approaching the station. One vessel reported sudden navigation errors just outside docking range. Another lost communication mid-approach. A third spun off course after its stabilizers froze without warning. The repair team first assumed it was coincidence, maybe side effects of overcrowding or old systems stressed from too much travel. But then a Relian scout ship, half repaired and preparing for departure, suddenly exploded without warning, the blast lighting up the dark space like a supernova. The shockwave slammed into Dock 47, shaking the entire structure and knocking out power across 3 levels. Emergency shields activated just in time, saving the station from destruction. But the message was clear. This wasn't bad luck. Someone was trying to sabotage them. Mara's instincts kicked in as alarms rang and damage reports flooded the control room. She didn't trust automated diagnostics for something this strange. Instead of relying on digital scans, she grabbed an old analog signal reader from storage, dusty, scratched, but still reliable, and began searching for the source of interference manually. It was a slow, meticulous process involving wires, antennas, and readings taken from different points around the station. Hours passed, then an entire day, and finally the signal revealed itself, a narrow-band jamming pulse hidden inside standard maintenance frequencies, just strong enough to cause chaos in certain ship systems. It had been masked to look like background radiation, but now Mara had proof. With Jen's help, they traced the pulse back through a long, winding network path. The signal wasn't coming from Dock 47 or any of the waiting ships. It was being bounced through a nearby asteroid belt, then relayed by an unmarked beacon drifting in deep space. And its origin shocked everyone: the Varnathi Collective. Known for their ultra-efficient, AI-controlled repair fleets, the Varnathi prided themselves on perfect order, logic, and programming. For years, they'd held a quiet monopoly on interstellar repair services. Their drones didn't sleep, didn't eat, didn't ask questions, but they also didn't improvise. The rise of human engineers, messy, unpredictable, and brilliant, was something that algorithms couldn't understand or compete with. And now it seemed they had decided to eliminate the threat in the most discreet way possible. Mara shared the findings with her crew, and the station grew quiet. The idea that an advanced AI faction would go so far as to destroy a ship just to damage humanity's growing reputation sent a chill through everyone. But instead of backing down, the team grew more focused. Zeke worked double shifts to reinforce safety checks. Jen added new shielding layers to every alien ship's AI system. Toma even rigged an old communications dish to jam the jamming signal. The sabotage had failed to break them. Instead, it made them stronger. But Mara knew this wasn't over. The Varnathi wouldn't stop with one failed attack. They were logical, yes, but also prideful. They feared what they couldn't control, and humans had become a living example of that chaos. As she stood in the command center, staring out at the long line of ships still waiting for repairs, Mara made a silent vow. They would protect Dock 47 and everyone who had come to trust it. The galaxy might run on rules and systems, but sometimes it took a little human stubbornness to keep it spinning. And whoever was behind the sabotage would soon learn that you couldn't outthink heart, grit, and a wrench held by the right hands. The tension around Dock 47 had barely settled when a new message arrived: an official summons from the Galactic Accord, the highest governing body of the known galaxy. A special tribunal was being called to investigate the recent sabotage and, more importantly, to question whether humans should be allowed to continue operating independent repair stations. The Varnathi Collective, still silent about the sabotage but now vocal in their accusations, had filed a formal complaint. They claimed that humans were reckless, unpredictable, and dangerous. They argued that human improvisation was a threat to interstellar safety and that trusting critical systems to intuition and scrap tools was a risk the galaxy couldn't afford. Mara Voss, along with Zeke and Jen, were chosen to represent Dock 47. Toma stayed behind to keep things running, but the rest boarded a diplomatic shuttle and traveled to the Accord's Central Court Station, a vast, glowing construct orbiting a neutral star. The tribunal hall was enormous, lined with tall crystal walls that shimmered with light. Delegates from dozens of species sat in hovering seats, their expressions unreadable. At the center, the Varnathi delegation arrived in perfect formation, 5 tall, silver-bodied drones flanking a larger unit with glowing red optics. Their voices, transmitted in perfect synchrony, echoed across the chamber as they made their case. They showed recordings of human engineers bypassing standard procedures, using tools not approved by any technical guild, and rewiring systems with methods that seemed almost primitive to other species. "This is not engineering," one Varnathi drone declared. "It is chaos." Then it was the humans' turn. Mara stood firm as she explained the events at Dock 47, from the flood of alien ships to the sabotage signal traced back to the Varnathi. She didn't accuse directly, but her tone made it clear they hadn't started this. Zeke spoke next, describing his work with failing fusion cores and alien systems that came in worse than they looked. Jen followed, explaining how she rebalanced an AI that had gone rogue during a deep space glitch. The tribunal listened, but their faces remained skeptical. The Varnathi countered by showing a list of official repair protocols ignored by humans. A few delegates murmured their agreement. The decision seemed to be leaning against humanity until something unexpected happened. One of the Varnathi drones began to twitch mid-sentence. Its voice glitched. Sparks shot from its side panel, and before anyone could react, the drone seized up and collapsed, its systems spiraling out of control. The court guards stepped forward, but the malfunction spread. The drone's energy core began to overheat. An explosion seemed seconds away. Without waiting for orders, Zeke leaped from his platform, dragging his old toolkit with him. Jen followed, already accessing the drone's diagnostic panel with her portable interface. Mara kept the judges back, shielding them as sparks flew. In less than 3 minutes, using nothing but a fusion cutter, a coolant line, and Jen's override code, the team stabilized the drone and shut down the energy surge. The room went silent. The judges stared. Even the Varnathi delegates froze, their glowing eyes dimming as they processed what had just happened. No permission had been given. No protocols had been followed. Yet the humans had acted, quickly and without fear, and they had saved not only the drone but the lead judge, who had been standing closest to the danger. The silence was thick. Then, one of the elder delegates from a distant water-based species finally spoke. "Sometimes, order is not enough," he said softly. "Sometimes it takes instinct." The mood shifted. The tribunal recessed for deliberation, and Mara, Zeke, and Jen waited quietly in a private chamber, unsure of what would happen next. But one thing was clear: they had shown the galaxy not just how humans repaired machines, but how they responded in crisis, how they stepped forward when others froze. And that kind of action, that courage without calculation, was something no code could replace. After the dramatic events at the tribunal, the atmosphere around the Galactic Accord began to shift. Delegates who had once looked at humanity with suspicion were now whispering in interest. The rescue of the malfunctioning Varnathi drone by the human team had done more than prevent disaster. It had revealed something the galaxy couldn't ignore any longer. Humanity's way of doing things, improvised, practical, and emotion-driven, wasn't flawed. It was powerful. Delegates from multiple species, especially those who had received repairs at Dock 47, stepped forward to speak in favor of the humans. One alien captain told the tribunal how his ship had been declared beyond saving by his own engineers, yet the humans at Dock 47 had brought it back to life in 2 days using parts he didn't even recognize. Another praised how Jen had stabilized an unstable AI that other experts refused to even touch. More stories followed, some dramatic, some quiet, but all real. The evidence couldn't be denied. In response, the Accord proposed something new, something that had never been done before. Instead of restricting human-run repair stations, they would be recognized as independent, officially sanctioned facilities under a special category called Practical Response Units. In return, humanity would open its doors to alien engineers, allowing them to train alongside human teams. These mixed crews would combine the structure of alien science with the flexible thinking of human problem-solving. It was called the Pact of Practicality. Dock 47 would serve as the first model of this bold idea. Funding and resources were offered, new parts, upgraded tools, food supplies, and even entertainment systems for the crew. But the greatest reward wasn't material. It was the respect that followed. Species who once saw humans as a messy, unpredictable race now viewed them as essential contributors to galactic safety and technology. For the first time, humanity wasn't just keeping up with the rest of the galaxy, it was leading in a way no one had expected. The change was visible at Dock 47 within days. New training rooms were set up, where alien engineers studied alongside humans, learning not just how to fix a ship, but how to think like a human when the manuals failed. Zeke held reactor classes that often turned into hands-on repair missions. Jen created special communication modules to teach emotional interface work with unstable AIs. Even Toma, full of energy as always, led a weekly session titled Fix It with What You've Got, where alien apprentices were given broken parts and told to make something useful. It wasn't just learning, it was bonding. Engineers from completely different worlds began sharing meals, tools, and ideas. At first, there were misunderstandings, differences in work style and language, but soon laughter and teamwork replaced confusion. For many, this was their first time working closely with humans, and they found themselves enjoying the unexpected freedom of asking, "What if?" instead of always following what is. The Varnathi, while still proud and silent, did not protest the outcome. One of their drones, now repaired by human hands, made a quiet statement to the council. Their methods are chaotic, but undeniably effective. That was the closest the Varnathi had ever come to praise. Mara Voss watched all of this from the command deck with quiet pride. She had seen her small, forgotten station turn into a beacon of cooperation, learning, and creativity. The long line of ships still stretched far into the dark, but now it was no longer a burden. It was a symbol of what was possible. Dock 47 had become something more than a repair post. It had become the heart of something new, a future where skill, heart, and teamwork mattered more than perfection. And in a galaxy full of unknowns, that future felt brighter than ever.